Good morning and welcome to the Mint on this. The government of Zimbabwe cracks the whip on corruption. All this and more on the stock exchange. Let's see where it traded yesterday. Fact that the insurer was still waiting for the High Court to rule on its leave to appeal the judgment. That's MT Capital. But Moyo fired back, accusing board was inexplicable. Now, in other news, investment group 10X has been ordered to withdraw an advert that disparages its competitors. In the advert, 10X CEO Stephen Nathan takes a lie detector test and says, would the CEO in charge of your retirement fund take a test like this? Now, 10X has been taking on its competitors in a similar way for many years. Its main selling point is that its products simply track the market, and that it doesn't use expensive fund managers to choose investments. The banner of the ad reads, "Numbers don't lie, but your fund manager might." Prudential Investment Managers filed a complaint against 10X with the Advertising Regulatory Board, ARB, objecting that the ad is disparaging. In its ruling, the ARB said 10X is free to advertise the absence of fund managers, but when to It's coming in, please, on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network. Now, markets had a relatively modest reaction overnight after the Fed released the minutes of its last meeting in July, where the ago agreed that the move shouldn't be as a mid-cycle stock market sell-off following the July underpinning the meeting's minutes was worry about Fed members in a year, and there have been Wednesday said he was, and I quote, the chosen one to address trade imbalances with China, even as congressional researchers warned that his tariff of speeches from policymakers at the Fed's annual Jackson meeting on Wednesday. Now then, retail companies' widespread systemic negligence and its failure to live up to industry standards. Walmart is suing Tesla, alleging breach of contract after fires on the roofs of at least 7 Walmart stores with solar panels installed by Tesla. Said the lawsuit filed Tuesday in a New York court. Now, Walmart is seeking damages from Tesla and is demanding the company remove all its solar panels from its stores. The retailer said Tesla had installed panels on the solar rental business. The move, according to share in recent years. Now, the European markets. European stocks traded lower yesterday after the wildly watched 2-year, 10-year US yield curve inverted for the second time in 2 weeks. The pan-European stock 600 slipped 0.4% in early yield curve, often monitored as a precursor of Federal Open Market curve. With services activity accelerating and manufacturing contracting at a slower pace. However, trade war fears knocked future expectations to a 6-year low. Now, Eurozone PMI climbed in August to 51. Points from 51.9 in July, also beating forecasts, while Germany's data was surprised about coming out of the Eurozone. Now, Italian politics remains in focus. Over forming a government following the collapse of M5S's previous populist coalition with the anti-immigration Lega party. Now, Asian markets. Meeting showed policymakers were deeply divided over whether to cut interest rates as sharply as markets were wagering. This is actually where European markets have opened. Now, Japanese shares were mixed on Thursday after manufacturing activity in the country shrank for a 4th straight month in August. Now, the benchmark Nikkei 225 closed fractionally higher, while the Topix index added 0.04%. Now, manufacturing shares in Japan were mixed. Komatsu shares rose 0.24%, Kawasaki Heavy Industries were up 0.84%, and Mitsubishi Heavy was down 0.15%. Electronics manufacturers sold off as shares of Sony dropped 2.4%, Renesas Electronics fell 2.35%, and Fujitsu dropped 1.36%. South Korea's KOPSI also remained a little bit firm, but however it fell yesterday 0.69%. Major chip makers Samsung and SK Hynix declined just over 1% and 2.64% respectively. In Hong Kong, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was also down 0.82%, as was Australia. Now then, mainland Chinese markets recovered. The Shenzhen Component Index rose 0.3%, the Shenzhen Composite up 0.4%, and the Shanghai Composite retraced earlier losses, edging up 0.11%. Singapore Straits Times Index added 0.18%. The Jakarta Composite erased earlier gains to 4.11% after Bank of Indonesia unexpectedly cut its key interest rate for the second time in 2 months by 25 basis points to 5.5%. Earlier, a Reuters poll indicated most economists were expecting the central bank to keep its key rate unchanged. We've talked about central banks cutting rates. Bank of Indonesia has followed suit with other central banks around the globe. And I think we're going to keep on seeing these interest rate cuts in an effort by countries to stimulate the economy. Now then, African currencies in Africa. Now, in major news in Zimbabwe, of course, yesterday, Econet has just announced that it has been given a bureau de change license. You should be able to, through your EcoCash, be able to transact, convert foreign currency. And in fact, today's rate on that platform is 10.8 to 1 US. We're going to be looking at that more on Monday, so please don't miss the mint on Monday, where we will look at EcoCash being given a bureau de change license. Now then, wage increases for civil servants in Zimbabwe should be aligned to growth in tax revenues to ensure it does not create an unsustainable burden on the national budget. IMF's resident representative to Zimbabwe, Patrick Imam, has said. Mr. Imam said wage increases have to be financed in a sustainable way, which is not printing of money, as in the past. For years, Zimbabwe's grappled with high wage bill, above 90% of its total revenue collections, leaving little for capital and social spending. This, Mr. Imam said, stemmed from significant pay increases above inflation. In an interview, Mr. Imam said higher wages, together with large agricultural subsidies and transfers to state-owned enterprises, are the major contributors to unsustainable fiscal deficits during 2015 to 2018, which caused the breakdown of the dollarized regime. Mr. Imam said, contrary to sentiment that the country's government workforce is too large, Zimbabwe's public employment levels are actually in line with peer countries. However, we must say, though, that there's no doubt that wage pressures are there for civil servants, and we have to look at giving them some form of wage relief, just like other workers in the economy. Now, the US dollar, Japanese yen rose on Thursday as risk appetite weakened, with investors looking to US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole on Friday. While there was no immediate trigger for the weakness in risk-orientated currencies such as the Australian and Canadian dollar, analysts blamed a likely deterioration in overall business sentiment and a renewed drop in bond yields. Now, against the dollar, the yen advanced by 0.3% to 106.2. You can see it's now at 106.63, nearing last week's 8-month low of 105.05. Now, sentiment was hurt by a drop in the Chinese yuan to 11-year low against the dollar, indicating trade tension between the world's two biggest economies remained a major issue. Now then, commodities around the world. Now, in the precious metals market, gold prices were little changed yesterday, holding above the key 1,500 an ounce level as investors awaited the Federal Reserve Chair's speech at a global central bankers conclave for clues on future U.S. interest rate cuts. That is actually today, and on Monday we will let you know what actually was said at that meeting. Spot gold may rise to 1,524 per ounce as it's found support at 1,497. SPDR Gold Trust, the world's largest gold-backed exchange-traded fund, said its holding rose to 851.91 tons on Wednesday. The holdings have increased about 3%, or about 24 tons so far this year. Elsewhere, silver was down, platinum was down very marginally, and palladium was also down. Now, the oil prices edged higher on Thursday after a drawdown in U.S. crude inventories, but lingering concerns over the global economy and a build-up in U.S. refined products product stocks kept a lid on gains. And in fact, the major news there is Iran. Iranian president cautioned Washington against tightening pressure on Iran. Well, that's it for In the Market. Of course, coming up after the breather, Zimbabwe government is getting serious about corruption. So please, your comments coming in on our Facebook page, Zimpapers TV Network, our website, ztn.co.zw, and Twitter, ZTN News. And of course, 31st of August, Dream Star. And of course, as you can see, I'm dressed by Form A today. Looking good, yeah? I'll see you right now after the break when we come back to In the Economy.
A great artist once stated, only shooting stars break the mold. But while the stars shoot at night, most of the artists sleep on their dreams. Instead of dreaming high and fighting harder, trust our dreams to stardom and let the stars gleam. Don't you think we might achieve the Zimbabwean dream? Well, fast forward, enough about the artists that trusted their dreams and let their passion pay off. Cause every day, another star was born. But will you be there to witness? Dream Star Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's Best Talent Search competition is back. This 2019 on the 31st of August at HICC Wembo Towers, Harare from 6 p.m. till late. Come and watch as the final 17 contestants battle for the grand prize of 30,000 RTGS. For tickets, call us on 0775 775 775. Voting lines will be announced on our official Facebook page, Dream Star Zimbabwe. Dream Star, dream higher and fight harder. Proudly sponsored by the following.
Welcome back to The Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. And of course, as I said before the breather, please go to our website, ztn.co.zw, our Facebook page, Zimpapers TV Network, and of course, our Twitter handle, @ZTN News. You're going to find fantastic content there from our ZTN Newsroom. Also, our mainline programming, The Couch, which of course the only show, as I always tell you, the only sports show that Andy Hodges watches. Of course, The Chase, the best current affairs sport show in Zimbabwe. And of course, Heartbeat, if you want to know about health, you've got to watch that show, hosted by Robert Mukondiwa. And of course, on the 31st of August, Dream Star. We're going to be streaming live in conjunction with Dream Star. ZTN will be there. So make sure that you watch that August the 31st. Now then, we look at eccentric billionaires. I'm a cross between Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci. Now, who said that? Well, Japanese inventor Yoshiro Yakamatsu has more patents than anyone in history. He has invented the floppy disk, a condom with a magnet, a toilet seat filter, and a wig for self-defense. These are just some of among the 3,357 inventions he has done. This all goes to show that he is one very eccentric man. Yakamatsu states that he gets his best ideas when diving underwater, where he notes them down with his waterproof memo device. In his book, The Legend of Dr. Nakamatsu's Inventions, Nakamatsu states, "Lack of oxygen gives me the flash." Did you know that Yoshiro Nakamatsu likes to unwind each evening in his 24-karat gold calm room? He says the gold blocks out radio waves and television signals that are harmful to the imagination. Even I'm laughing at that, but I tell you what, 3,000 patents? The man's doing okay. Eccentric ideas, there aren't any as far as I'm concerned. As long as you have the vision, you can bring it to fruition and it can work for you. Now then, President Emerson Mnangagwa yesterday reaffirmed his commitment, the commitment of the government of Zimbabwe to fight corruption, declaring war on the corrupt and telling them their days were numbered. Speaking at the official launch of Zimbabwe's anti-corruption awareness campaign, the president said his recent actions giving the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission arresting powers was proof of his dedication to the corruption fight. Now, according to Transparency International's 2018 Corruption Perception Index, Zimbabwe ranks 160 out of 180 polled countries. Transparency International also said Zimbabwe loses at least $1 billion annually to corruption leakages. The country also scores an awfully low 22, where 100 is very clean and 0 highly corrupt. However, the President Mnangagwa promised this was soon going to be a thing of the past. He also urged the media to report objectively on corruption cases being unearthed by ZAC. Now, this is important. Why do we talk about corruption on the Mint? Well, because corruption is critical, because it takes away economic growth. The money that people are spending on corruption actually can go to productive purposes. Anyway, the Mint reporter Ndaka Majaka was there and gives us this report.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa says his government has crafted mechanisms to deal with corruption.
My government has set out Vision 2030, which is predicated on zero tolerance to corruption, amongst other issues.
He said the country's appalling corruption ratings were disappointing, adding all departments needed to work towards an improvement.
As the ambassador, His Excellency, said, we are 160 out of 180. It's very bad. I hope that at the next assessment, we should show that Zimbabwe is improving.
EU Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Timo Okenen, commended the president's efforts in trying to fight corruption.
Zero tolerance to corruption should not just be spoken about, there has to be concrete action. Let me just say here's again public sentiments, Your Excellency, that you have demonstrated your willingness to fight corruption through words, but they do not necessarily see this always supported by action. The EU therefore calls on all the state institutions present here to support the President's public declarations by actions.
However, the envoy was quick to point out that Zimbabwe still needed to act on the scourge.
Zero tolerance to corruption should not just be spoken about, there has to be concrete action. Let me just say here's again public sentiments, Your Excellency, that you have demonstrated your willingness to fight corruption through words, but they do not necessarily see this always supported by action. The EU therefore calls on all the state institutions present here to support the President's public declarations by actions.
On his inauguration last year, President Mnangagwa promised to get rid of corruption. However, Zimbabweans were fast losing faith in this promise. The new wave of prominent arrests is anticipated to restore confidence in the president's promise that he would fight corruption to the last. For the Mint, I'm Ndaka Majaka in Harare.
Now, African currencies worse than Zimbabwe include Angola, DRC, Burundi, Chad, Libya, South Sudan, Congo, and Somalia, which is ranked the most corrupt country in the world. Now then, I'll tell you now, on the Mint, we are going to make sure corruption also is one of our things, as we fully support the president's call that the media should highlight corruption because it can destroy an economy. And in fact, endemic corruption at all levels of our society needs to be weeded out, whether it's paying a guy at parking, whether it's paying to get a passport, whether it's paying high-level corruption to get tenders and so forth. Every one of those must be weeded out, and we have to get rid of this scourge in our community. So here at the Mint, we will make sure we report on corruption without fear or favor. Now then, Zimbabwe's cotton output is set to decline by 52% this year after a severe drought that was experienced last season, according to the Agricultural and Marketing Authority. Output will be the lowest in 2 seasons, to about 68,000 tons, 142,000 tons last year, and 74,000 tons in 2017. AMA Acting Chief Executive Ms. Nancy Zitsanza said while giving oral evidence before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Lands, Agriculture, Water, Climate and Rural Resettlement. Production was affected by the drought, which we experienced this past production year, she said. The drought also affected maize output, which dropped by 54% to just over 776,000 tons. About 357,000 cotton farmers were registered by 6 companies that funded production last season. In terms of funding contribution, COTCO, which is administering the Presidential Free Input Scheme, contributed about 75%, or 39 million, making it the largest sponsor. The government introduced a scheme to save the industry that faced imminent collapse after farmers abandoned cotton production, citing poor prices and low levels of funding. Now, in introduced in 2015, the input scheme has helped production to increase from 28,000 tons, the lowest output in nearly 2 decades, to about 142,000 tons last season. At its peak, Zimbabwe produced 352,000 tons of raw cotton in 2012. Of course, I call cotton, and everyone does, white gold. It's a huge export commodity, and we need to really boost our cotton production. Now, speaking before the same committee, Cotton Producers and Marketers Association Chairman Mr. Stuart Mubonderi highlighted some of the challenges affecting the industry. Now, these included the mobile payment system being used to pay the farmers. He said the punitive rates charged by errant businesses were heavily eroding farmers' earnings. Mr. Mubonderi also appealed that cash to be made available to farmers in areas where there is no mobile network. He also expressed concern over lack of research and development of new seed varieties, arguing this was affecting productivity. Now, Mozambique has launched a 40-megawatt Mokuba power in the province of Zambezia in eastern part of the country. President Philip Jacinto Nyusi performed the inauguration ceremony. The solar plant project, built by a consortium of Scatec Solar and Partners, covers an area of 200 hectares, 170 hectares of which are occupied by the solar panels of the plant. It's presently dominated by hydropower, with dams on the Zambezi River as well as Cabora Bassa Dam. That produces over 2,000 megawatts. That's how Mozambique gets its power. The independent power producer, Scatec Solar, is part of the consortium that owns the Mokuba Solar photovoltaic plant. The other shareholders of the project are the state-owned company EDM and KLP North Fund Investments, a financial institution owned by the Oslo-based insurance company. The Mokuba Solar project was also supported by the Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund of the Private Infrastructure Development Group, a multi-donor organization with members from 7 European countries and the World Bank Group. Now, the electricity produced to be sold under the 25-year power purchase agreement signed in 2016, during a statement that the clean energy made by the Mokuba plant could contribute to avoiding 5,000 tons of carbon emissions per annum. Now, MTN South Africa reportedly aimed to sell at least 2 million of its new 249 Rand phones this year. It looks as if sales have got off to a very slow start. Since its launch in April in South Africa, only 87,000 of the new phones were sold locally. In total, including other African countries, smart S phones, 281,000 smart S phones were sold, the company confirmed in a recent results presentation. However, an MTN spokesman told Business Insider that the company is delighted with the performance of this MTN-curated product. MTN calls it a smeature phone. That's a mixture between a feature phone, a very basic phone that can access the internet and play music, and a smartphone, which performs like a computer with an operating system that can download apps. The Smart S, which was produced by China Mobile, comes preloaded with MTN's music and mobile money apps. Users can also access YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter, and it runs on the Android operating system, according to the MTN website. MTN hopes to sell between 2 and 3 million of the phones this year. CEO Rob Shooter previously told IT Web it is aiming to sell 10 million devices over the next 3 years. The phones were launched in South Africa in April after delays in getting the first shipment through customs. Now, we always make sure we leave you with a smile. And of course, this is to make you smile until you see me again on Monday morning at 10 a.m. here on ZTN. Now, Instacart, the grocery delivery service, has now expanded to over 12 cities. Although it's known for delivering groceries extremely quickly, the fastest delivery was just under 12 minutes. Founder and CEO Apurva Mehta wasn't always so prompt with deadlines. Mehta applied to Y Combinator, a startup seed accelerator, 2 months after the deadline passed. In order to get the attention of Gary Tan, one of the YC founders, Mehta decided to send him a 6-pack of beer delivered from Instacart. Half an hour later, he got a call from Tan. This is what Tan said: "I'm not sure if it's the beer talking, but he asked me to come to the YC headquarters the next day to meet the partners," Mehta recalls. Mehta has done other crazy things for Instacart. Once he and his staff bought every single item in the Trader Joe's grocery store to photograph and catalog them into the Instacart system. He says the Instacart team and personal shoppers were eating Trader Joe's for at least 2 weeks after the photo shoot. Well, I hope that left a smile on your face. Now, please keep your comments coming on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, and of course our website, ztn.co.zw. There's exciting programming from ZTN. This includes Heartbeat, ZTN's top health show, The Couch, the only sports show you should ever watch. Of course, Extra, the best entertainment show in Zimbabwe, The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program, plus up-to-date news from the ZTN newsroom. And of course, you can watch back issues of The Mint, not just today's issue, but also previous shows of The Mint, which of course is live on ZTN Network every weekday at 10 a.m. And of course, The Chase, Zimbabwe's best current affairs program. Well, that's it from me today. I think what I'd like to say to you, though, is, you know what? Just down the road from us here is the agricultural show, Zimbabwe Agricultural Show. Why not go have a look at it? It's bigger than better than before. And who knows, you may even see me there this afternoon. Anyway, that's it from me, Andy Hodges. All I can say to you is, you have a great day, great weekend, look after each other, and you all be safe. Goodbye.